welcome to yet another episode of Dear Man. We're excited to come your way again. It's a bright, sunny Saturday morning, and there is no better thing to do than to join us on Dear Man. If your team is losing like mine is, then you don't even want to watch football. So for now, throw everything football away and let's talk about more important things in this life. Anyway, so as usual, we would want to share the feed and let everyone know that we live. And so take the next 5 to 10 seconds to share the feed, and then we will get started. Doing mine as well. Let's get this done. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So we are live. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we should be good to go. And today, as usual, Sami has a very long topic for us. Discover the true meaning of self-love and how it can transform your life. Okay. So it's one of those usual Sami tough topics to discuss. I think this one is pretty straightforward. Um, Again, just before we delve in, when you join us, let's know you here. Shoot a hello, shoot a hi, and then we'll bring you into the conversation. So there is a lot of concerns about people who go into relationships and they face with one situation or the other. I'm sure if you've been listening to the news in Ghana, one of the news trending currently is one lady who was physically abused. Let me not even say physically abused because that extends into emotional abuse. It extends into any form of abuse that you can think about. One man who has abused the spouse, and I mean something that continues. Like it's not like a one-time thing, but keeps abusing the wife, and unfortunately, it is like, how do I put it? It's become like the order of the day for them in the marriage, and so and a lot of videos circulating of the wife, the abused wife, in the middle of their compound house, and so on and so forth. And someone actually took the video and shared it, and that was how this thing was fortunately brought out to light. And then you ask yourself, why would someone allow herself to be subjected to such treatments, right? And I think this perfectly ties into the topic that Sami is requiring that we discuss today. So you would ask yourself, and I saw one image of, I mean, someone trying to compare how the lady was before. I mean, getting into the relationship, I don't know how accurate that is, and how the lady looks now. And you ask yourself again, why on earth would someone allow herself to be subjected to such treatment, like I mentioned initially? And one answer you could give to that is maybe the absence of self love. People shouldn't go into relationships and lose themselves and lose who they are, right? So, the first point I want to um, drive home is being able to still keep your identity. In this case, like I mentioned, it's just a picture showing what she was before and what she is now. It ties into the fact that she has sort of lost her identity, lost what she used to be. And I'm not even keeping it literal, like the facial, but like how she looks um, from the facial standpoint. But if you would go into a relationship or if you are in a marriage, you shouldn't lose your identity, whether it's physical or your who you are as a person. If that becomes the situation, chances are that you are actually not loving yourself. You've had to become someone you are not, just to still be in that relationship. That's why we keep saying that the time that you have for courting is a time to actually investigate, understand, explore who your spouse to be actually is. Then, in so doing, you will know that this is someone I wouldn't struggle to be with. Like, this is someone I wouldn't need to change my identity to be with. So, um, if you find yourself in a relationship and it looks like you have to pretend around someone, or you have to be who you are not around the person, then that is a very big red flag. It means that at that point, you've lost yourself. And that's marks of someone who is not like really treating himself or herself well, is not giving himself or herself the kind of love that he or she deserves. Let's go into scripture. So the golden rule, um, when Jesus asks us to love the Lord our God with all our hearts, our might, and all, and love our neighbors as ourselves, the assumption there is that we will love ourselves so that we can love our neighbors how we love ourselves. If you are in a situation where you don't have that love for yourself, I wonder how you can extend that same love to a neighbor. So again, when Jesus gave us that admonition, the assumption was that people usually will love themselves. So he was drawing our minds to loving our neighbors just the way we love ourselves. If this is the regular order that is expected, then I don't know why we would go into a relationship and all of a sudden we would be subjected to situations that would make us change from who we actually are. Because think about it. Um, if you know yourself to be a real, like, kind person, a real calm person, someone who is always joyful, if you would enter a relationship and that joy will be taken away, it means there is a huge problem, right? I mean, it goes without saying. So we should get to the point where we are we are bold enough not to lose ourselves because of a relationship. You should have a situation where your attributes gets magnified. I mean, gets um, yes, amplified. when you find yourself in a relationship. So if unfortunately you are in a situation and it looks like you really used to be very happy, and all of a sudden you've lost all that joy and all, then there is a problem. Now, what I am not saying is that if you have a bad attitude and you can learn to be a better person, don't say, I don't want to lose myself, and so I'll keep up with my bad attitude. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that all the positive traits that you have should not be lost just because you find yourself in a relationship with someone. So whether you're trying to, get to know yourselves before marriage or you are in the marriage itself, remember, don't lose your positive traits. Don't. So whenever we see that there is a lot of compromise in marriage, we are not talking about you compromising on good values to stay in a marriage. That's not what we're saying. Especially when it comes to decision making and you are making a compromise, is just you really thinking through what your stance is, and if possible, change your stance so that you guys can reach a consensus. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you should drop all your positive values and then go in for a gloomy, negative personality. That's not what we're saying. So, in effect, if you can't um, love who you are and you can't come to terms with who you are, then you would be forced into a situation where you will lose yourself. Another thing is to be bold enough to express yourself, and this still dovetails into the first point that we discussed. To be bold enough to express yourself before whoever your partner is. I know that when people start dating and all, they become a version 2.0 of themselves to put up the best fronts to their partners to be and all. It's human nature, that's fine. But for example, if naturally you are not someone who like cooks food, and your partner to be is coming around and you're trying to put some meals together, that is something positive. It's not, you are not losing yourself, you are learning to be more valuable. But if you are someone who is um who naturally voices her views or his views, and just because you are about to date someone, all of a sudden you become like the calmest dove around and harmless dove around. You are not helping yourself, because what you actually doing in that situation is you are painting a picture of yourself that is not real. So if your spouse to be actually makes a decision based on that, that okay, this is someone I want to be with because I like people who are quiet, who are relaxed, who are phlegmatic, and that is not you, then you are not expressing love for yourself, because you are actually misrepresenting yourself. You are showing up as someone you are not. So yeah, that is one key thing we should take note of. So again, don't lose your identity. Then the other thing is that to ensure that that self-love remains, again, if think about it, the principle is simple. If you cannot bring yourself to treat yourself in a certain way, you would not be able to treat others that way. It's pretty simple, because um you cannot give what you don't have, right? So again, you should be able to get to that point where you express love to yourself, where you are able to treat yourself well before you can treat someone else well. And I'll give you a classical example of that. Um, Personally, I am I don't like pamper myself. You get what I mean? So when I say pamper myself, I don't give myself um an ajebo treatment, or like a spoiled kid treatment, to be reason why I would slack in anything I'm doing, right? So I always try to push myself to the maximum. What that means is that naturally, I don't also pamper people around me. I keep pushing them to achieve the best that they could. Sometimes I might want to appear as someone who is really the pampering type or something, but it's not who I am. So you realize that I'm always trying to push people again to the best of their abilities. What that means is that if you are expecting pampering from me, it might be tough. It's not impossible, but it might be tough. Now, in the second point that we're going to discuss, what I want to say is, if you know yourself and you know you are of a certain type, you know you are cut in a certain way, do well to communicate that to your spouse. Don't hide it. So open communication would ensure that whatever you've grown with, and again, I'm talking about positive values, whatever you've grown with will not be lost on you. That your partner would be able to accept that this is the kind of person I'm getting married to, or this is the kind of person I'm in a relationship with. It helps so much, so that you don't need to, again, be a version of yourself that is not real. Then you get your partner into a situation where they go like, oh, but when I knew you, I mean, before we got married, you were not like this or you were not like that. Don't create that kind of situation for everyone. So please do well. Try to be open about what your values are really. It's just like, if, let's say, you not, and this might be a trivial example, but it would bring the point home. So let's say that you you support a good team like Liverpool, okay? And you are used to winning trophies, you are used to winning Champions League, you are used to winning, you are used to being the most decorated team in England, and you happen to get into a relationship with someone who supports Arsenal, for example. But because you want to feel comfortable around the person, or you want the person to feel comfortable around you, you pretend you like Arsenal as well. All you are bringing yourself to is going through a lot of heartache, because you would be watching things that naturally you will not be drawn to, and they will not be bringing you the kind of results that you expect from a good team. So always be very open about what you believe, how you think you made. Let your partner know, so you don't get into a situation where you would have to compromise your values, your real values. Yep. So um, that is number two. Number three, um, allow yourself, or I would say that open yourself to learning. And I think I hinted at this earlier on a bit. Make sure you are open to learning. Now, you one who expresses love to yourself in a certain way. Like, for example, you would rather like go have ice cream or go shopping or do something, and that's how you express love to yourself. When you get into a relationship or you get into a situation where you marry to someone, then there might be um, a situation where the expression of love to yourself might need to, for example, take a different turn. And I'm not saying necessarily a negative turn, but your husband, for example, is not, let's say he's diabetic or something, or your wife is diabetic or something. So originally, maybe you were drawn to always having meals that were in that are maybe sugary or have high proportions of stuff that other person should not be taking. You could still express love for yourself, blah blah blah, in ways that would also robe in your newfound life, right? So if you have a spouse that cannot do X because of whatever situation, then you can be open to learning and look at what are the alternatives to ensuring that I am not in an isolated situation, or I have not left off my spouse and I'm out there doing what I feel is right. Because the reality is that when you get married to someone, then as scripture puts it, the two shall become one. Now, when the two becomes one, I mean, depending on how um, the differences in your likes and dislikes and all, you would need to do or put in some balancing act. So at that point, you realize that you gradually try to adjust to what works to both of you. And that does not mean, again, you losing your identity. It just means you are trying to learn and unlearn stuff just to ensure that you have a balanced relationship. So um, I think these 3 points give us very good lessons on how we can maintain that love for ourselves as we go into relationships and all. I will conclude with this. If you find yourself in a relationship that is abusive and that is a danger to your life, a danger to your health, my brother, my sister, find your way out. I I always thought that physically abusing spouses or abusing spouses in general was something for the 1950s. If in this era of technological advancement, in this era of artificial intelligence, what you can produce in all this is to be physically abusing your spouse or abusing your spouse, let me put it generally, then I think there is a big problem. There is a big problem. So if you are the receiving end of this, find your way out. You don't want to die, and at your graveside you would say, had I known. I mean, that would be foolishness on your part. So if you think you have a spouse that is prone to boxing or looks like a wrestler, you can reach out to the Ghana Boxing Authority or the Wrestling Foundation or something, get the person enrolled there to go do whatever he does best, and find your peace and find your way out. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it to for someone to look at you, at your picture, maybe a year or so before you got married, and look at you at your picture again after you've been married for a while, and the results are nothing to write home about. So yeah, always be on the lookout. Don't settle for less. On that note, we wrap up today's episode of Dear Van, and thanks so much for joining us. We'll come your way again next week with yet another episode. Thanks and cheers for now. Bye bye.